Hello, Dilly. How are you?
I'm doing so good, George. How are
That's
you?
awesome. Hold on one second.
I
So,
liked that song.
do you know what song that is, Dilly?
No, but I was like hoping for something like that. Like it got me a little pumped.
There you go. So, um,
I mean, I've heard
this,
it before. I just don't know the name.
yeah, of course, this shows the age difference between us. So,
Mm-hmm.
that is the Alan Parsons Project, and it's probably that song is probably most well known for its introduction at sporting events.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so in particular, the Chicago Bulls, one of the most storied franchises in pro basketball, would always play that song. I don't know if they still do, but certainly in the Jordan era they did.
That's where I've heard it from. Okay, because I
Yeah,
knew that I've heard it before, and it was like something like a big event. Maybe I'm like I watched some documentaries on the Bulls.
yeah.
So.
So let me ask you. So I've played some stadium intro songs before,
Mm-hmm.
and do you think like I really like it because it pumps people up? That's the idea.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah, I
but
love
but
it.
but 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 do you think it's appropriate for these spaces or not?
Oh hell yeah, George. Hell yeah.
Okay, so
Because
that
this is
is
like the belly of the beast. We got to get people ready, on the edge of their seat. Like
okay. So
welcome to
so
the
so so,
Thunderdome.
so the name of the song it's Sirius, SIR. You can look it up, Dylan. You can post it to the nest. SIRIUS. And I'm
Hmm.
reading here from Wikipedia. If it's on the internet, it must be true.
Yeah, right.
It's been used as the intro song for the Chicago Bulls from 1984 to the present day. To the
Okay, there
present
we go.
day. All right. So there you go. So yeah, no, and it's one of the most chilling, tingling,
Hmm.
inspirational intros in all of professional sports. I absolutely love that song. So
I do too. I love
I,
that.
I I know I surprise you every time. It's like, what's he going to come up with next?
This
But
is way better than that one song you played the other day.
what, Doobie Brothers or something? I don't know what it
No,
was.
you played that one song like when you were trying to like give us shit for, not like giving
Oh,
you
you mean
recommend.
you? Oh, you mean it was a Kendrick Lamar song that you didn't
No,
like?
it
Oh,
wasn't a Kendrick Lamar song. Come on. Then I would have loved it. It was what was that one song?
I
I
don't know.
I
Someone's.
have PTSD from it, so I blocked it out of my memory, but
So you
maybe
can't.
somebody can.
Is it one of those songs that you can't unhear? Is that the problem?
I don't know, George. It was I think I really like disassociated from the song. It was so bad.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Cool enough. All right, so we have some good news and some bad news. What do you want first?
The bad news.
So the bad news is, as you had warned me, Dilly, Twitter is really glitching badly today.
So bad.
Okay, and not only can Adam Parker not log in using the Trivariate Research account that they have, but
Hmm.
when he goes to try to start another account, it doesn't work. And then he had two younger people in his office try to open up accounts.
Yeah.
No, it's just not working. So,
Yeah.
I can speak to I'll speak to later. I did put some charts in the feed. I'll put them up in the nest. I'll talk about a few of them. But unfortunately, Adam, who's terrific, and actually, Dilly, if you could go look, actually, I'll put it up on the nest.
I can
Michael,
post those.
no, 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 no. But you don't
Oh,
know what I'm looking for. Oh,
okay.
yeah, oh no, you know what? Yeah, if you could post, I just posted about, I think, six charts from Adam's recent deck. They're in my feed. I just put them up.
Yeah, I'll put them up there.
If you could put them up the nest, and then I'm gonna find. I have an Adam Parker um, video. Michael and I interviewed Adam about 2 months ago, and he was very prescient with some of his calls. So I'm really sorry that he's not with us today. But we're going to reschedule. We're going to reschedule Adam.
Okay.
So yeah, that's just it's like I was like Adam was really frustrated. And again, whoever said it the other day, yeah, he can't run Twitter properly. But don't worry, he's got FSD,
Yeah,
self-driving
like
cars
don't.
and robots. So like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
if he can't get this thing to work, I really want like a $20,000 robot in my house doing stuff.
right, and there was also a thing I posted. I got to be careful what I post, but I think I posted yesterday. One of our adoring fans sent it to me via DM. Apparently, the self-driving cars are getting into collisions in San Francisco. So, between all the stuff I'm
You
reading,
don't say.
and between all the stuff I'm reading, and we had Gordon Johnson, Michael, and I. Michael actually can we can Michael maybe can cover this in his remarks, but Michael and I also interviewed Gordon Johnson in a YouTube about 2 months ago, and it was just, you know what, when Michael's speaking, I'm going to tee up the YouTube part where you just listen to Gordon talk about what a disaster, what a car crash, no pun intended, the self-driving thing is. And so, yeah, and the thing about the Chuck E. Cheese robots, we'll get on to that. But at any rate, so I'm babbling here. So let's get to Michael because his first job is as head of his household or co-head of his household with his wife, and he's got his hands full. Michael, you got cheerleading. Today's not Wednesday, so it's not Kramer in the car, but you got something else going on tonight with the girls.
Uh, I don't know. Right now, I'm just hiding in the bedroom.
Seeking refuge. And Michael, so I know you mentioned the other day how you didn't attend, but you drove your family members to the Kendrick Lamar concert. And Dilly was sad she didn't go. They got any other concerts coming up soon, Michael?
Um, I feel like there is one coming up soon, but I'm not sure which one it is. I think Dua Lipa's on the calendar and
Ooh.
Halsey.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not going to them. I'm just, you know.
You're the chauffeur.
Michael, you're not going because you're trying to save money. Or it's just not your thing. What is it?
I think it's like a girls thing.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds like fun.
You have to remember the way the order of things go in the household. The husband usually, at least in my experience, comes below the second dog. So it goes, wife, one, two for kids,
Yeah.
dog one, dog two, me.
There you go. There you go. By the way, I'm going to tell a funny story before we get moving here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the story for later. Michael, why don't you have at us? Give us your updated thoughts. It's been
Wait,
about a
did you
week.
tell us the good news, George? Because you started with the bad
No,
news.
No, he didn't.
the bad news is we get Kramer. I got other stuff I can talk about, but I mean, sorry, the good news is we get Kramer. The bad news is we get no Adam Parker. So any of that.
Okay.
All right, so Michael, we're going to give you expanded coverage here. You can talk as long as you want. So
Oh, okay.
Michael, over to you. What's top of mind for you? What do you see going on?
Just want to know, like, what's it called? I know there's a breath thrust, but what's it called when it goes the other way? Is they have a term for that? Is that like a deep breath thrust or something?
Michael. I think you have to. We have to have a committee and come up with a name, and then you could trademark it. Like, I don't know if we call it a penetration or a down thrust,
A
or I don't know. I don't know why you were laughing, Dilly. I don't know what you were thinking about. Okay, but seriously, we need to come up with a name for that type of price move, and then Kramer can trademark it. So what do
Like
you?
an inverse breath thrust or
Yeah, something
something.
like that. We'll come up. Yeah, we should actually have a poll to come up with a name. I think this group, I'm sure, can come up with something.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
sure
so
some of the
But
listeners could
I've never heard anyone ever talk about it. That's why I was curious.
I'm sure some of the listeners could drop some ideas down below.
yeah, and by the way, if anyone has an idea, please come on up and make the case for why you like your idea. All right, so Michael, crazy
Oh,
market,
you
Michael.
want to get serious now?
Let's try to get serious. I don't know how long that's going to last, but let's try to get serious. So take it away, Michael.
Um, so obviously we have interest rates going up quite a bit here in the U.S. I know that a lot of people thought rates were going to go down this year, but George and I happen to have the same opinion that we thought rates were going to go higher. And I think really the most troublesome thing that we're seeing in the rates market right now, specifically, is what's happening in Japan. I think the 40-year JGB is at an all-time high right now. Um, and the same with the 30. So, I mean, you have a 40-year JGB right now trading at 370 and a 30-year trading at 318. And obviously, this creates a lot of tailwinds for rates to rise here. And on top of that, you have rates in the UK market also moving up rather dramatically. And so, right now, I think the tailwinds, just globally, the global forces that are there, suggest that rates probably here in the US continue to go up as well, as long as that dynamic remains. And, I think for the most part, the equity market has been really complacent for a couple of years now about the risks of rising rates. And if we kind of try to extrapolate this, right, and say, well, how high can rates go? And, it really comes down to, where does the Fed cut rates to? I mean, if the market is right in its assessment of where the Fed bottoms in the rate cutting cycle, which comes, let's say, somewhere around 3.2% or so, I mean, you could be talking about a normalized yield curve looking like, a 6 or 7% 10 and 30-year rate, based on the historical norms of the spreads, on the 10-2 or the 30 minus the 3 month. So there's a risk here that rates can go still significantly higher, especially if the Fed's neutral rate or the terminal rate is something like 3 to 3.5%. On top of that, you have these other forces going on in the world. So I think there's still a lot of risk for rates to go higher here. And you can see what's been happening in the market the last 2 days. Next week will be a much more interesting week because you'll have a 2, a 5, and a 7-year auction. And then the following week, we'll start getting a lot of this jobs data. And so um, I'm watching very, very closely right now. Additionally, we're seeing more signs of inflation coming through. Today we had the PMI data from S&P, which showed that prices paid indexes for manufacturing, I think, rose at the fastest pace since August of 22. And I think services was the fastest since January of 23. So, again, we're continuing to see signs that, there's inflation in both services and in manufacturing, revamping. And that's also another reason why rates can continue to move up. Um, and basically when you sort of look at that and you start thinking about it across, what does it mean for stocks? What does it mean for the FX? The messaging of the market continues, I think, to be one of that where the market's worried about this stagflation type environment setting in. And I think it's really funny. I don't know if anyone's caught it, but about a week ago, I think there was a source that leaked that, talking about how, trade deals weren't being talked about or discussed about, rates. I mean, about the dollar and weakening of the dollar. They want there to be a strong dollar. There was like a source that caused the dollar to spike. But now, in the meantime, you've had over the last couple of days, South Korea come out and talk about how, they're trying to adjust the won there's been talks about it around that. You've seen Japan come out and talk about how Bessent and Cato met on the sidelines of the G7 summit to talk about, the yen. So, I mean, clearly there is some discussion about where the dollar's place in the world is taking place as part of these trade discussions, which we haven't really heard very, very much about, other than that there could be a deal at some point this week, which they've been saying for 5 weeks in a row. Um, and so when you kind of look at all these different aspects of the market, you look at the equity market and you just sit there and you kind of wonder on a daily basis, what's really going on here? Why is the market kind of levitating at these higher levels? If we're seeing rates, I noted today that the last time the 30-year was at 5.1%, the S&P 500 was at 4,100. And so it just really shows, and that was only 18 months ago. So it really just shows you, relatively speaking, how overvalued stocks are right now when compared to bonds from that perspective. And additionally, it also tells you that there's something else going on in the market other than their traditional stock bond correlations and things of that nature. We talked about this last time I was on, but I think a lot of this has to do with option positioning. And I don't think that yesterday it was a coincidence that we saw the market sort of shift directions. So it's about 2 days after after monthly OPEX. You also got past VIX OPEX. You had a market that was incredibly complacent, and option positioning was all very much shifted to calls. And so now you're starting to see that all unwinding a little bit. Did I just ramble for too long?
No, I was fumbling for my microphone key button. So, Michael, you and I largely are on the same page. It's not always the case, but One thing I find curious, it's one of these classic spitball type things you and I push back and forth on. So it's one thing that, yields are going up globally, fine, and the US is being dragged up with that. But I find it particularly noteworthy what's going on in the bond market of the world's largest creditor nation, namely Japan. Um, what's your takeaway from the price action in the Japanese bond market? Do you have any view on that?
Yeah, I don't know what they're supposed to do, to be quite honest. I don't know if the BOJ, I mean, you would know better than I would, right? I mean, does the BOJ step in here and have to do something? Because, how high can rates go there before something, uh, kind of goes wrong? I know you had a really bad 20-year auction there last week, or I believe it was, I can't remember anymore. Uh, and, you've seen rates really go up there very, very quickly. It's not just how high they've gotten, but it's the speed in which they've gotten there. And I think, you have some of these large Japanese banks that obviously have a lot of exposure to this stuff. And I guess another thing I was reading today in the Financial Times was, if you're a manager of a portfolio over in Japan, and you can start getting rates that are almost, not that far off of the US rates, and you can start collecting yield, and you don't have to do it, have the FX exposure. Why do you need to have US rates, treasuries at all?
Yeah, 100%, Michael. I think I mentioned this a couple days ago. To your point, the gap between U.S. long bond yields and Japanese bond yields is closed. But even worse, if you then start to, and I don't know how it's changed in the last couple days, but I know it was a few days ago. If you factor in the cost of hedging, the return from dollar bonds is actually lower than Japanese bonds. So then you lie with that, you juxtapose with that. Even if you do it unhedged, which you clearly wouldn't do now because of the increased political currency uncertainty. Think about it. Excuse me. To pick up a 2% yield, to take currency risk in a currency, the dollar, which can move 2% in a day against the
Right,
yen.
we've
What?
seen that.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
insanity. So this goes back
yeah.
to the not to pump our YouTubes, but I probably should repost Jay Pulaski's interview you and I did a month or two ago, where he was talking about money going home. The idea that there was 25 trillion, I think, of money that come from Asia and Europe in the last decade or so, and if just some small portion of that money tries to go home, it's look out below on the dollar. And then, Michael, I was listening to a really interesting space yesterday. I want to bounce this off you, not space, but interview. And I have nothing but the highest regards for Maggie Lake. She did a fantastic interview with Julian Brigden yesterday. Maggie, in my opinion, is the best interviewer, the best YouTuber out there, period, bar none, period. Even better than me. And she had Julian Brigden on, who's brilliant. And Julian was talking about how badly, so to speak, we've been treating foreign investors. That if you're sitting in Asia or in Europe and you're looking at what we're doing with our currency and the message we're sending, you and I have talked about this before many times, Michael. The idea that if you're an emerging market country and your currency's falling and your bond market's threatened. And if the World Bank or IMF came in, they would normally say, okay, pursue some austerity, cut spending, and raise interest rates. Where in fact, we're doing exactly the opposite here. So that's just an invitation for Mr. Market to strike back. And Michael, I keep quoting you, but what was the line? Trump doesn't hold all the cards. How did you say it? Mr. Market holds all the cards, or what was it exactly, Michael, from a couple months ago?
The bond market holds all the
Yeah,
cards.
yeah, and you can't. They're not buying as.
You can't.
Yeah,
Trump can't bluff the bond market.
yeah, that's the one. Trump can't. You got to read, Michael. That's one of your best ones. Trump can't. I got to write that down.
Thanks.
Yeah, Trump can't bluff the bond market. No, exactly.
Right.
I think Mr. Market's in control now. When will this, Michael? Here's the live question to that. When will the equity market really care? Because you and I talk a lot about how, and it's well known, the market can only focus usually one thing at a time, and things don't matter until they matter. Now, maybe it's starting to matter, or maybe, just maybe, who knows? We'll be sitting here 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now, and yields will be that much higher, and the market will bend, but it won't break. So you know, I think people are going to be surprised by the not just the if not the speed, certainly the level speed by which the certainly the level to which rates are going to rise. You and I share that view. But do you think we're in the phase finally where this could get really volatile for the equity market? Like in the market, I mean, listen, if anyone had been told, if you were, I think you're the one who put this marker down. It's a little variation on something a little bit different from what you said earlier. Compare the S&P now where it was at the start of the year. I think it's up marginally or something like that. But yields are considerably higher. Forget about 18 months ago. Let's just talk about 4 months ago. Yields are much higher. Growth prospects have surely dimmed, and the tariff outlook is much more uncertain. Forget about what relative to where it was. The tariff outlook was 45 days ago. This whole idea of this crazy tariff thing, that was nobody's bingo card to start the end of the year. So at the start of the year, so you think about how much worse things are, and yet equities, meh. Now they're denominated in American pesos. I get that. You put that in any other currency or in real money, gold, for instance. In real money terms, the equity market's gone down. And if you are a foreign investor, say you're denominated in euros or even more graphically Swiss francs or Japanese yen, you've really taken a beating. But and so the point Julian Brigden was made was, in a perfect world, he's like, he's not a perfect. He's like, maybe equities will go down, maybe they won't. That's a hard call in dollars. And he makes the point that, gee, what the Trump administration would like, not that they're going to get what they want, is imagine a market where, they try to keep yields from going up much. They do some yield curve control or whatever they do. So yields don't really go up a whole lot. They may go up some. But equities, for all the reasons we could articulate, they don't go down a lot, but they don't go up a lot. All right. So he's making the case that basically just assume rates don't go up a lot from here and assume equities go nowhere for the next 5 years. But he's like, if you're a foreign investor in that scenario, he expects the dollar to go down meaningfully. In other words, they can try to influence risk appetite. They can try to influence interest rates. They can try to influence the currency, but they can't do all three at the same time. So his view was, if you're a foreign investor, you're going to get hosed one way or the other in U.S. assets. And if you're an American investor, because pointing to the fact that people can't really have the market going down a whole lot, it'll destroy their pension plans and all this other stuff. Yeah, in dollar terms, it'll look like, if it's a sideways market, fine. But measured in real purchasing power, I mean, Americans have become a lot poorer relative to the rest of the world than they are right now. Does that trigger you in any way, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much just right. Because the main factor is, I mean, just look at what's happened to the Taiwan dollar. It's not supposed, it doesn't really ever move. And not yet all of a sudden it's moved tremendously. Look at South Korea, same thing. You can see it happening in all the Southeast Asian currencies already. They're already starting to repatriate money, and pulling it out of wherever it's been here in the US. The problem is we have very little idea of what inning this actually is. And so, I think it's 100% right. Like, you're seeing bond yields going up. I know China was a seller of bonds last month. UK is now the second largest holder of US debt, which I don't know if that's on a national level or with all the, subsidy, all the different entities that are, headquartered over there. But, um, I think basically you're looking at a scenario where, you know, money flows can easily continue to be a major headwind for the markets going forward in both bonds and equities. And again, it's really going to depend on where all this tariff stuff goes. And right now, you're about a month away, I guess, from that July 6th date. We're approaching that date, and there's really been nothing concrete, kind of hammered out there. So this tariff stuff is going to become front and center again within a couple of weeks. And if there's no real concrete sort of idea of where these deals are going to be, it's quite possible that you could see the dollar sell off accelerate at that point.
Yeah. And Michael, just raising the issue slightly different way. Think about this. At the turn of the year, there were a lot of reasons to be cautious on markets. You were cautious, I was cautious. we were worried about, valuations
Sure.
and all the other stuff, right? Here we are. The market's all the way. I'm just repeating myself, I guess. But I'm gonna make a slightly different observation. We're all the way back to where we were with a demonstrably inferior outlook. But I think what's happened along the way, and again, this gets back to the market being unable to focus on more than one thing at a time. At the turn of the year, it may have been, maybe we're going to get a recession, economic uncertainty, valuation. But the tariffs came in, and that took everyone's attention away from, as I like to joke with you, our regularly scheduled programming, which was high valuations and sustainability of AI and all this other stuff. So people's attention got taken away from all that by the tariffs. So even if you buy the idea, which I don't, and I think you don't, people say, "Well, the tariff's already in the price, or it's a second derivative of the tariff news. It's less bad than it was before, or whatever." Okay, fine, allow them that. Even though you and I don't believe that, but allow them that. So what does that leave you? I mean, we're back to where we were before, and in particular, I think the outlook for continuing monetary largesse, especially what you've been saying about not just inflation, but real rates. So easy money, not so much. Fiscal expansion, not so much. And by the way, again, and you and I agree on this a lot, and I wish Joe Carlosario was in here, but I can't help is again, you can't unhear certain things. But when someone said in his space, I can't remember, it was like 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, continuing austerity. Continuing austerity. Did you see the freaking budget? That big, beautiful budget or whatever they're trying to put through? I mean, this is total insanity. So I don't see what there is to go for. I think valuations are ridiculous. The scope for monetary ease is zero. The scope for fiscal ease is zero. So again, Michael, it's like they say, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old golden retriever or whatever. Like, how's this supposed to work? How's this supposed to work?
um, Again, I think a lot of it is, unfortunately, a lot of it is just option flows and the casino like mentality of buying the dip. And so, basically that game can play until you have no more chips left.
Right.
And that's the problem is, I personally, I think if the market takes another dive here, which it could because it's very thin. I don't think there would be a big comeback like we saw the last time, because I think there would be a lot of loss on a second move. Um, the the other thing, I guess, is that, the idea here is that the second derivative idea. Well, let's go to the third derivative then.
Wait,
What
wait, Michael,
if
Michael. Is this third derivative along with 5D chess? Is that what we're doing here, Michael?
we're doing 18D chess right now?
Along,
I mean,
along, along,
I'm
along.
playing two games of chess with two different hands while my brain is, been doing both of them at the same time. Let's take it one step further. What if all the good news is already out, and all the news that to come is going to only be worse?
Yeah, so I'm totally with that. And I can't remember if it was in our conversation the other day or I said it to somebody else. Oftentimes if you own a stock, the positive and negatives, risks and rewards, and they talk about sometimes the phrase. I'm sure you're familiar with it, Michael. De-risking the bull case. In other words, you may like X, Y, Z, and there's 5 things that could go right and 3 things that could go wrong, and one by one, as the 3 things that could go wrong get debunked, you're de-risking the bull case. Like the negatives, have gone away; they've been disproven, right? So you're free to go up and to the right. Okay. Well, I actually would argue the opposite along the lines of what you were just saying right now. How about de-risking the bear case? Okay. In other words, what are we worried about? Okay. What if you're a bear? What is one worried about? Okay. Well, you're worried about there could be good news in the tariffs. Well, whether we're going to get good news in the tariffs or not, the market's already celebrated as if it's a done deal. It's in the price.
Right.
So like, so let's argue the other way, Michael. And I like some bulls to please come up on stage. Let's talk about what could go right. I was at a lunch today with a smart investor, hedge fund guy, and he said to me, he's bearish. He said to me, "Okay, George, make the bull case." I said, "All right, if I'm forced to." Oil prices not only stay down, they go down further. that that there's more, there's too much supply, blah blah blah. Oil prices go down further. I see we have Neely in the room, and as we know, gasoline prices are huge. Lower gasoline prices are a huge stimulant for the consumer. And so, all right, so oil prices continue to go down even more. Two, let's assume that there's some peace breaks out in Europe, that Russia and the Ukraine reach a deal involving the U.S. And Michael, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Louis Gov making the point that maybe there's some grand bargain struck whereby Russia is able to sell a lot of their oil to Europe. So it's a win for Europe. It's a win for Russia. All right, so you get the break. So and it would prove to be at the margin a stimulant for the European economy. Okay, every little bit helps. Door number three. Let's say peace breaks out in the Mideast, that you actually get some type of deal. Again, assuring lower oil prices, and you also see the promises of continuing capital flows into the U.S. It's Monty Holics make a deal. I pledge to invest 100 billion, no 500 billion, a trillion. You see all these, we're winning bigly so much, keeps all these numbers flowing, right? So at the margin, markets calm down. It's thought it's assumed or thought the flow of capital will restart again. Again, Michael Howell, please call your office. You and I, Michael Kramer, have spoken a lot, and as Michael Howell made the point about the U.S. may win the trade war, but it's going to lose the capital war. And flow of capital, free flow of capital, is one of the key ingredients out there. So I say, okay, let's assume that all happens. Lower oil prices, peace in the Mideast, and a truce between Ukraine and Russia. And let's assume, it's only a 30% tariff in China, whatever. Okay. So, Michael, $50 in double jeopardy. I know it's one of these speech and a question things, as I'm known to do. It all gets back to, so what are we left with? The market at 23 times earnings growth is slowing down. Like, how's that work again, Michael?
Well, the problem is, George, is that earnings estimates are coming down, so the multiple is actually higher,
Okay.
and that's the problem, right? Is that
Yep.
the market is actually getting more expensive because earnings estimates are coming down. So it's even worse than what you just explained. Because if reality is that the economy is getting slower, or that it is slowing, or that margins are being compressed, or that sales growth is coming down, the market is more expensive today at 5,800 or 5,900 than it was before this all started.
Yep. Yeah. No,
So
for sure.
that
Yep.
that's I mean, the facts are that earnings are coming down for
Yeah.
25 and 26. I know Michael Cantro was talking to me the other day on Twitter about the forward 12-month versus the actual year, the calendar year. But I like to look at the calendar year, because the calendar year is coming down for next year. Then eventually, you can look out and say, well, that's going to be the top for the 12-month forward.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. One of the other sleight of hands that the Bulls like to play too is they'll say, well, it's May already, and we're coming up almost to the middle of the year, and we can look ahead to 2026 earnings. Forget about 25. Take it as a write off, okay? A non-recurring, one off write off. Well, the interesting thing is, and I'll put it up in the space in the nest in a second. Adam Parker, who unfortunately is not with us, was pointing out that just your point that rates have been earnings estimates have been coming down, and he's now his 26, what was his 25 numbers now is 26 numbers. Like it's a lost year of earnings, exactly to your point. So I don't know, I don't see how this works. I mean, there's been such crazy stuff going on. I know we talked about this the other day, Michael, but you go back to the beta chase, the pigs flying. Yeah, I think in the month of April, what was it like a 1 day all time? I'm sorry, a 1 month all time record. Um, 1 month record for the move in the beta factor. I think high beta outperformed low beta by 22%. This is Goldman Sachs stuff, which is like the greatest ever in the history of their keeping the data. I mean, this is again, as I'm wanting to say, Michael, things you don't see at the bottom. This just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
No, it
um,
doesn't. And you basically, when you look at the volumes, you want to look at the technicals. I mean, the volumes have been sort of meager. They're nothing fantastic. So you basically have a market going up on, okay volume. It's very illiquid. Bid-ask spreads are wide. The top of book is really thin. It doesn't really. I mean, look what happened yesterday. It didn't take very much to move the market. And so, this is a very fragile sort of environment. And and in fact, in a way, I mean, the market by going up has just emboldened Trump to probably dig his heels in on tariffs because, hey, look, market loves what we're doing here. Look, we're almost back to all-time highs.
Yeah, what's not to like? Okay, if anyone wants to join the conversation, please come on up. I see we got David, Rob.
But
Sorry, Michael. Go
I
ahead.
cut
Go
you off,
ahead.
but I do have to run.
All right.
I'm
Yeah,
being sent out
Michael.
for dinner.
Michael, thanks so much. Enjoy. We'll speak soon. All right. So anyone's got
Thank you.
yeah. If anyone's that's great. Thank you, Michael. If wants to join the conversation, please come on up. I see we got Rob, Jock, David, Rob Isbits, and so on and so forth. TX, come on up. While we're waiting for people to come on stage, just remind everyone, 2 weeks from today is our conference. And we've got, again, to remind everyone, we've got Jay Pulaski, who I mentioned earlier, on global strategy, Ian Harnett to talk about Europe, Stavros Treaties to talk about charts, Tavi Costa, gold and mining stocks, Jordy Visser, AI and Bitcoin, Michael Howe, the Dean of Liquidity, Mike Rothman, the number one ranked energy analyst on the street, 40 some odd years, formerly of Merrill Lynch, now on his own. Melody Wright to talk about the real estate, car crashes in progress. Louis Gov, weigh in on Asia. Many of these people we've had on our YouTuber recently. John Roque, a big friend, and everyone loves him in this room. And then we'll spice it up with Mark Cajotes, who's going to talk about some of his short ideas. So again, now it's 2 weeks from today. I honestly think this is not just the best independent research conference that's ever been held. I actually think it's the best research conference period that's ever been held. And the reason I say that is most street firms, you pretty much just get their own internal opinions. This is an all-star team. I picked one of the leading influences in every one of these topics, and they'll all be in one place at one time. And so I urge everyone to attend. It's a paid conference. It's $349, which may seem like a lot of money, but compared to most other conferences, it's not. And to get access to these people, all independent research, typically charging 10, 20, 30, $50,000 a year to hear what they're having to say. So everyone come on in. All right, so let's get it going. So
We have
drunk.
Rob.
No,
Oh,
so drunk is out of
okay.
rehab. I'm so glad he's here. So I don't know, drunk, like have you been staying off the bottle or what's going on? We missed you, man. What's going on?
uh, Unfortunately, some other commitments got in the way, and I was doing a little bit of some research, but was not absent by choice.
Were
You
you in
doing you
jail?
you you doing research? I always thought it was just you having a little sake with your buddies at the BOJ and going over and now the PBOC. Like I thought that's research where you come from.
And you can write that off. You go to the sushi bar, you're doing sake research. That's a tax deduction.
Well, as you guys know, when I say research, I mean that I'm trying to flip over which of the bottles still has a few drops left when I wake up in the morning, and hopefully I'll bump into somebody at the grocery store when I buy Gatorade that tells me what the next hottest thing is.
So drunk, does that kind of redefine the term lends new definition to the term bottoms up research? Is that what you call bottoms up research?
It's kind of funny. We were talking about the distorted markets earlier. My favorite kind of distortion is trying to read my charts through the bottom of the pint glass.
So so drunk, you must be killing it in dollar yen. You're known for, how should we say, having good sources in the Tokyo market. So drunk, I mean, you got, like everybody else, you got hosed. I mean, it was a rite of passage back in the '90s. Everyone shorted the JGBs and it never worked. So Have you been doing the Texas hedge, kind of like short dollar yen and also short the JGBs, like, or you got other fish to fry?
I have to admit I did kind of miss some of the yen strengthening. I thought it was a sushi menu, not a currency setup, and so now I'm long confusion and short that sobriety. But I'm finding some other opportunities, and I think where I'm going to be looking next is, at the rate that we're spending. These guys in Congress are making my bar tab look like it's a rounding error. So I have to kind of figure out what my next move is, but um, we'll see.
So, drunk. I see your fingerprints everywhere, though. It's kind of funny how you see prices move, and then with maybe a 90-day delay, the 13D comes out, and there you are having bought or sold it. So I know it may be kind of indiscreet question, but I gotta ask you. Like, I know you like to go opposite the crowd. So you killed it last fall when the Fed cut, and JG the 10-year went to like 360, and you came out a couple days later saying it's just crazy, and you shorted the bonds. You made a killing. I gotta ask you, drunk. Given this pullback in the price of gold, and all the gold bears came out. I mean, asking for a friend. Did you get back into the gold trade a couple weeks ago? I think drunk passed out.
George, hang on one second. I'm having a technical error.
All right, so you know what? I think drunk's got to go get a refill. So Gnostic, you wanna drunk? Hold on. We'll let you go. We'll let you go take a pee, and you can refill. So Gnostic, you there? Do you wanna weigh in, Gnostic?
Oh, I've still got gym brain. I'm still amazed at the response to my comments about the transformers coming into the U.S. from
Yeah,
China.
yeah, Gnostic. You really put the cat amongst the pigeons. So, could you make, for those that weren't in the room yesterday, it might be useful. Like, you really created a storm. So, could you just kind of repeat for those that weren't there, and maybe we got some. This will be the new topic, I'm sure. The guys that were global trade experts, before they were Jevons paradox experts, before they were epidemiologists, before they were container shipping experts. Now they're all going to become grid experts. So, Gnostic, could you just repeat for everyone in the room? What was it you said yesterday that caused such a stir? Because of course you had to wait to the very end, so we couldn't talk too much about it. But now I'd love to hear more from you on that.
Okay. Well, somehow Trump got information that there was something about a transformer that was being brought up from the United States, and we're talking big electrical grid transformers that do it at whatever those sites are where they distribute electricity. I'm no expert, by the way. And so he had it basically confiscated and taken apart. And what he found in it, or what his people found in it, were switches that would basically allow it to be turned off. Now, whether they were hard switches, soft switches, remote control switches, you know, don't know. Maybe somebody else can figure that one out. But anyway, the switches were there, so Trump banned their import by executive order into the U.S. When Biden came into power, Biden said, "Oh, well, why'd you ban these things?" Scratched out the executive order, which I didn't know you could actually cancel an executive order. That was interesting in itself. Um, but he scratched it out and said, "Okay, bring them all in." So the company that builds them, Huawei or whatever it is, basically started shipping them all into the U.S. And now they're implanted throughout the grid system in the U.S. Uh, I would presume with the same switches still in them. And so yesterday when we were talking about power and power distribution being a central issue with AI, and one of the people mentioned the grid and the frailty of the grid is a problem, I went, well, actually, it turns out that some nefarious country, someplace, has switches that could possibly turn off the entire grid and create a real problem. So I think the general, whatever his name is, that wrote Fifth Generation Warfare, was completely right about, you don't need to shoot guns. All you need to do is, put out the grid. And everybody sits down and talks about, oh, well, you just put a neutron bomb above something and you blow up everything, and people are alive, but you blow the grid to pieces. Don't have to do that. You just turn it off.
So Gnostic,
No,
Gnostic was. I understood from you yesterday. This was actually. You said this was seen in incredible sources. It wasn't just like National Enquirer type stuff. I mean, this came from reliable sources.
Sorry, I turned off my mic. Yeah, it was published all over the place at
Really?
that particular time, and in places you were looking at. And like the guy said, oh yeah, saw this and it's up and running. So hold on just a sec.
No worries. Dilly, this is a crazy story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Could you imagine, like, if all the just the traffic lights stopped working, you couldn't get money out of the ATM, your DoorDash order wouldn't work. I mean, like, how would we survive, Dilly?
They have there's like a new movie on Netflix, I feel like, that is kind of in line with what this sounds like. But again, that's a movie, not an actual real life experience, but I guess we are experiencing that now. The
Yeah,
probability
well,
of that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I don't know if Drunk is back. Drunk, you back?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
Had
no
a
worries.
technical issue there.
No worries.
Yeah, I think to kind of go back to your question there about gold, for my friend, it's definitely taken a little bit of a nap, at least recently, but I wouldn't confuse that for weakness. That's really just the asset equivalent of leaning on the bar and ordering another round. Am I still a bull? I would say yeah, because we've got these deficits climbing, and it's like they're on a pre-workout. Central banks have been holding gold like it's toilet paper in 2020, and the geopolitical risk is pouring out like cheap wine at a wedding. So
Hey, Drunk.
I guess if you if you want to hedge stupidity, you buy
There you
gold. You
go.
want to
There you go. So,
bet against every fiscal car in DC, you buy gold. If it's the only thing that doesn't need earnings policy or a press conference at a rally, I guess I would just be long and loving it.
there you go. All right. So, Drunk. No one's. This is just between us, okay? Just Dilly, you, and me. Like, no one else is going to hear this. So, Drunk, come on, be honest. Is Bessent calling you like every night, telling you what's going on, or you telling Bessent what to do? Like, what's the deal with Bessent? Like, I don't know. I don't trust this guy. Like, what's your take on Scott?
you know, I think eventually, after about the 19th time I I didn't answer his call, I blocked the number. Three of the voicemails, three of the voicemails that I received, I heard the big guy yelling in the background, and Scott was in tears. So the last phone call sounded pretty desperate. He was about 30 minutes from going on television, and he said he wasn't sure if he could put on a brave face. And I think he said that they were going to try to grow their way out of the growth of the deficit. So um, I would probably take him at his word that they're going to try to grow the deficit. And quite frankly, even I don't have a cure for that kind of stupidity.
Hey, Van. Like, did Scott tell you before he was going to take this job? Did you give him any advice, like, not to do it? Like, why is he doing this? You know him pretty well.
My guess is that somehow, if you look at what happened during uh, the pre-inauguration period, that he was probably the guy who got in early on Trump coin, so he probably didn't mind.
Trump coin. I got it. By the way, Van, isn't there also this thing, like, if you go to work for the government, you can, like, I think you can sell all your stuff and pay no capital gains or whatever. Like, isn't that one of those tricks too? So, like, maybe Best is doing this just for pure financial reasons.
Well, I got to imagine that if anybody is going to figure out how to get around the tax code, it's the people who actually write the tax code. So, well, uh, I'm sure there's a loop in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure, because Gnostic, maybe you can weigh in on this, but I'm sure Howard Nutkick, formerly BTIG, and Nutkick and Bess and all these other clowns, like Gnostic, you've been around for a while. I'm pretty sure there's this thing: if you work in the government, you can sell all your stuff with no taxes. Isn't that right?
Well, I don't think it's work in the government, but I think certain positions like cabinet people and all the rest of it get to do it. And I suspect that's one of the reasons Elon didn't go into cabinet. He didn't want to sell.
Right. And now we'd have you believe that he's going to go back to Tesla full time. Everything will be fine. I think he needs to work. By the way, Dilly, I'm a little confused, and maybe someone else can come up and answer this question. But I know there's all this paper charade thing. Hold on, AJ. This paper charade thing with uh, Twitter or X, whatever you call it, and the other company with the AI. So, like, Dilly, did Elon, like, did they sell this X thing to somebody else now, or is it all just a pure shell game? Like, Dilly, you up on this?
I don't know about that actually.
Maybe,
Maybe somebody else.
yeah, maybe AJ does. AJ, you know about this? Like, what's the deal? I lose. I can't keep track of all the three card Monty thing. To me, it's just
Can
a
you
paper something.
could you repeat the premise for me? Because I was thinking about a question to ask on an unrelated topic while you were talking
Oh,
about
okay,
that.
okay. So maybe do
I think what you're referring to, George, is I think he transferred it to his AI company.
right. Yeah, okay. And I don't know. To me,
But I wouldn't
I
I wouldn't
think
take my word on it.
yeah.
I think he found a way to repackage the short-term debt and roll it into more short-term debt and called it manageable.
So Van, hold on before we get to AJ. So Van, are, who the hell came up with this crazy plan? We want to get the foreigners to buy what is it, 100-year bonds, which they can't resell, and blah blah blah. And like, have you ever heard of such a cockamamie thing, Van?
I got asked once if I wanted to go long on a 100-year Bulgarian bond, and I actually took them up on the offer, but that meant that I had to short the South African rand at the same time. And it turns out that both of the guys I was talking to were some sketchy FX desk tied to some Nigerian prince scandal, and I'm not really sure where my money went. So I'm not sure I would trust any 100-year bonds again.
So Van, I thought the Bulgarian South African rand cross rate is one of the more heavily traded cross rates at FX desks, or is that not quite the case? You can check in, but you can't check out.
I think that was one of those ones where I thought I had found a loophole in the everybody's always looking for that edge, right? And I think you've probably heard me at a press conference talk about I like to take 2 or 3 eggs and put them and watch them carefully. And when I went into that, I actually was hungry for breakfast, and so eggs were on my mind. And I kind of misunderstood the proposal in front of me, and it turns out that the edge that I thought I had was really just the hot sauce I needed for the Bloody Mary in the morning. So
All right, AJ, I think you had a comment or a question for someone. AJ, the floor is
I
yours.
mean, I love it. Yeah, if anyone in here has been fooled by the Prince of Nigeria, let me just tell you right now, there are also a total of 0 hot Asian women actually trying to help lonely single men make money in cryptocurrency. So don't fall for that one either. So my question was regarding Trump's recent announcement, the Vigilant Fox account, which I think we're all following. Drop the bombshell, snippets. And so it looks like Trump wants to, he didn't call him good or bad, but, it kind of fooled me when I saw, or it threw me for a loop when I saw Trump calling Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer, a great man, months ago at some kind of press conference. And just today, he's got Kennedy sitting on his left side and he's talking about how it sounds like they're going to hold Pfizer accountable for something, or they're going to take some sort of action. So my gut instinct is, hey, buy puts on Pfizer. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll rebrand or something like that. Or maybe I don't think they'll apologize for anything, because if they did, that would imply guilt, which would imply lawsuits, which would imply bankruptcy. But I'm wondering, how are we feeling about, Pfizer stock is now at a 5-year low. And I think it can go lower. I think they might go out of business.
So
What do you think?
I'll take the first stab at that, and then anyone who's on stage, Gnostic, Rob, Van, Dilly, anyone. But my 2 cents: what should happen, unfortunately, is often very different what does happen, and everyone has a price, and they cover up for each other. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. The machine takes care of itself. So I don't know what's going to happen with this particular situation. I suspect there are plenty of other lawsuits coming. I don't want to get into good conspiracy theory too much, although I come out of the closet. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think there's so much bad stuff with all the vaccines, and not that I don't believe anything. This whole it's just don't even get me started. So I don't know where this lawsuit goes, but if everything was in the hunky dory, like why do they have to agree to a 75-year? And I think it got overturned, whatever. But 75-year, lockup on information. So let me just stop. I want to go to Rob Isbitz. Hold on, drunk. Rob, you got a particular view on Pfizer, Rob?
Yeah, I do. But cut me off and I'll call back in if I have trouble. You know how my mind works, George. Here I am driving on 595 in traffic right at the same time that the SPY ETF is stalling around 595, give or take. Kind of funny. Uh, as far as Pfizer goes, I think that it is symptomatic of a much bigger issue, which is a lot of let's call it old economy companies. Remember, I'm price based, I'm technician, so uh, I look at everything through that prism. Pfizer is just the latest in a long line. I mean, you can look at UPS, you can look at Conagra, Heinz. I mean, a long list. A lot of stuff I've written about. And I think generally speaking, when I sort of dovetail that with the massive amount of comments I respond to in my Seeking Alpha articles, uh, especially when we write about certain stocks, United Healthcare was one recently, space company was another one. I'm just getting the idea that sentiment and an increased uh, amount of buying pressure from what used to be meme stock traders, and now they're getting a little bit older and they're getting a little more money. Demographics are going in their favor, and that's one of the reasons I think that you've got kind of old economy rotten and new economy speculative, never made a penny, just like in the dot-com bubble, and they can float on air. So let me stop there. I mean, I've got more, but I wanted to put that out there as a kind of a
Sure.
general
No,
technician's view.
I agree with that too, but specifically on Pfizer, which, and by the way, I'm going to digress here for 1 second, but UNH, United Health, I have no position. I think it is a giant can of worms. I think it is a black box, and some bottom fishers out there are buying it. That's fine. Wish them good luck. They're buying it on the charts because it's oversold. Blah 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 blah. But I would is such a can of worms between the pharmacy benefit management on the one hand and the Medicare Advantage on the other. And there's so many shell companies inside of that thing that anyone who thinks they know what's going on inside UNH has got something coming to them. And I got a bridge to sell you. Um, people say, well, gee, it's only on 12 times earnings and it's usually on a P twice of that. Look at the dividend yield's 3%. Well, what if earnings are going to disappear? And to me, this whole thing about just buying it off the charts, again, I keep invoking the Oscar Wilde line about, he knows the price of everything, the value of nothing. I just have a huge if someone's done their work and can make the case for why it's a buy, great. I have no opinion, and I don't see how anyone can have an intelligent opinion about it. But yet, people are jumping up and down saying you have to buy United Health. Well, I wish them good luck because there's so much fraud and dishonesty and lack of integrity everywhere you turn. So to me, AJ, we haven't answered your question, but I just think as you peel back the layers of the onion of Pfizer, you peel back the layers of onion United Health, and I could go on, but those are two of the more prominent companies in the healthcare sector that have been featured recently. I just think, look, if someone buys these things and want to go dumpster diving, more power to you. But don't come crying back to me if it's like there's indictments and fraud and this, that, and everything else. So, Rob, if you have a follow up specifically on Pfizer, UNH, it's great, but I want to
Yeah,
keep it on those topics, please, not something else.
yeah. I wanted to make this actionable. That's kind of where I was going. I think that this is a great environment. I call it the most dangerous and most opportunistic environment that I've seen in 40 years of doing this. And I think that people need to start looking beyond, oh, I like this or I don't like it. If you don't like a stock like that, and I mean, this is exactly what I'm looking at. Okay? I have a list of stocks that I keep at all times where I say, okay, if it bounces and it starts to get weaker again, and it's probably going lower, I'm not going to risk a lot of capital, but I will buy out of the money put options because it's already told you where it's going to go once, and it probably will go south again. Lower lows, lower highs. Those are the basics. And so I think that people should, if they can, should learn more about the basics of options because we're not in an environment where you just buy stuff and hope it goes up over 5 years. And so being able to play the short side without shorting stock and taking all the risks that's involved in that, I think buying put options on things that you don't like is one of the easiest, most fluid strategies you can get, and you can put very little capital
Yeah,
at risk.
but
And I think
Rob,
that's
let me ask right now on Pfizer, and maybe AJ knows this. Like, are the options? Is the implied vol pretty high? The options expensive or cheap? I have no idea. AJ, were they pretty expensive? Do you know? Or Rob?
Oh,
I don't know.
sorry, I was on
yeah.
my
Well,
Robinhood screen just now, but yes, I was just looking at those as you were asking me the question.
Yep.
I found a 195 strike put for only 1 penny. It's down 95% today. That's really weird. But the put
you're talking UNH, not Pfizer, right?
I'm talking UNH right now. Yeah, I took a screenshot. I'll show you what I'm looking at.
Yeah, but
Great.
AJ, what's the time horizon on that? I mean, when's it expire? Say
Yeah,
one penny.
I think that was 2 months out.
Wait, a 195 put for a penny 2 months out?
Yeah, something's weird on the screen here.
Yeah,
Let me see.
no. That might be one of these after hours things where the bid ask spread is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, if I
Well,
get it for 2 cents and it triggers in the morning, I'm a lucky son of a gun.
Yeah, but I doubt you could buy it for a penny. Is my point. And after hours, I mean, first of all, the options market's not even open now, so like that's not a real price.
Pfizer's
Yeah.
at
So
Okay.
hey, so
71%.
yeah, drunk. We can't hear you. What were you saying, drunk? Drunk.
Pfizer has they're at a 71% IV percentile, so they're pretty expensive options right now.
Yeah. I mean, look. Who knows? This is all dumpster diving as far as I'm
Well,
concerned.
I think there's a better play there, George.
What's that? What's that?
Well, I think when you buy those vaccine stocks while they're getting sued, it's kind of like buying the mezcal after the worm has winked at you. It's kind of high risk and it's questionable when the liver says no. But I can take those cash flows, subtract the legal risk, divide it by the public outrage, and I'll multiply it by how many drinks it takes for me to say liability shield without laughing, and I'll come up with a price that makes sense.
So that sounds like your definition of a Sharpe ratio. Is that fair? That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and that's you come up with a price that makes sense. Every man's got his price, and apparently after happy hour, mine goes down at an exponential rate.
So
I
drunk,
start saying,
drunk. Are you bullish on anything these days, or like you just do macro? Like where do you see the opportunities?
well, I think I trust the long end of the yield curve probably about the same as the guy trying to sell me oysters at the gas station and telling me it's a good long-term bet. Also, it's pretty warm outside, so I tend to stay away from.
Oysters are good for stamina. Ask any
That's right.
Kramer man. Oysters are good for stamina if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, well, I was in a landlocked state, so you tell me. But when it comes back to I think we were talking earlier about you know gold and the and the sell off and how we're playing that. There's some sketchy ETF based in a jurisdiction that I can't pronounce. It's run by a guy named Yuri, and he stores his bullion in quote somewhere safe. So if it goes south, I lose everything. If it works, I'm a genius, and that's about the only thing I'm bullish on at the moment.
That sounds pretty cool. Good. So where were we here? Let's see, Gnostic. I think we cut you off before. You still hot on these transformers?
Well, no, that's all I had to say about them. Basically, they're out there in the grid now.
Yep.
Does that represent a risk?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't know, Drunk. Do you think this is like beyond the pale, or you think there could be some? This story could have some legs, Drunk.
I've actually talked to some national security people, and we talked about where, unconventional warfare would go, and if the grid went down, just kind of forgetting the charts. But if you think liquidity would dry up now, I mean, wait till the only functioning asset is a gas generator and a can of beans. So gold, that's no longer a hedge; it's a currency. Bonds, I suppose you could use them to start a fire. Your quant model, unless there's a way it runs on moonlight and prayer, I'm gonna go full frontier portfolio. So I would think about going long propane and short ETFs, and I'd hedge that with a flask. I guess if the lights go out, the only index that matters is the campfire coincidence indicator. So buy candles, very curious, and don't answer the door after dark.
Yeah. So, Drunk. I know you're very prescient. Maybe it was Scott giving you the wink, wink about the tariffs, and you kind of like stocked up some inventory on some of your favorite alcoholic beverages. So, I don't know. How's the thinking on the tariffs changed for you lately? Like, you think it's going to be this problem's going to be here for a long while, or you're not too worried? It's just going to everything's going to be 10%. It's not a big deal. It's around here.
Well, as you know, I went on TV and told people that a 10% tariff here or there probably wouldn't be an issue, and I think a lot of folks agreed. And then we had Liberation Day, which I confused with Libation Day, so I didn't get to read about it until the market had already dropped the next morning when I sobered up. But a lot of the pundits were shocked that Trump did something that they didn't expect, right? And then now they're absolutely convinced that they're sure he's not going to do something that they don't expect when all these deadlines roll around. And kind of considering the precedent he set with backing off of China, it seems that some of the other Asian countries have decided to play hardball the same way. So I would not be surprised if we get surprised.
That makes sense. Yeah. So it's crazy times. I mean, markets are okay at pricing risk, but uncertainty is always a different question. So, Drunk. I know you're always looking at the charts. So, you think energy's worth a shot here, or there's no momentum to the upside. So you don't want to catch a falling knife. You let somebody else go first.
Well, the only energy I've looked into was the energy drink that I had so I could come on your show and not uh, totally sound hungover. But I guess I'd consider hedging uncertainty by sometimes I had that by kind of doing nothing and just blaming Powell. So um, yeah, I'm not sure about that one, George.
Yeah, you mentioned Powell and the Fed. Um, I'm not sure. I think Kevin Warsh is still working with you, or he used to work for you. You been talking to Kevin lately, or not so much? Because they talk about him being maybe the shadow Fed guy at some point here.
Well, the last time I heard anything, he had gone to DC to have a meeting with Trump and Bissett, and from what I understand, they're not willing to let him out of the GIMP box right now. So I haven't heard from him in probably about 3 weeks, and I don't think we're going to hear from him until they're ready to announce his coronation.
Hey, Dilly, you back?
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this space. I'm telling you, this space is
Yeah.
so whacked up. I just
George, I saw that X has been down. I've been having technical issues all day with it.
Yeah, Dilly was
Yeah.
telling me. Yeah, it's really it's a
I
it's a
think they have like a cyber attack happening. Like, I know that they've had that in the recent months. So I think that that's happening right now.
The algorithm doesn't like it when traders are successful.
Apparently.
Yeah, no, this is by the way, I want to put a question out to some folks here, and we're gonna this is a complete change of direction. So we've been doing these spaces pretty regularly the last few weeks. So if anyone wants to come up and talk about what we could do differently, and or I'm thinking about maybe trying some of this out on Substack Live or YouTube Live, you could actually see my. Well, I'm not sure. I'll have to wear a baseball cap backwards with a T-shirt on or something like that to look cool. But um, so I don't know if people like this medium or it'd be better video. The problem is we do it on another platform, Dilly. It doesn't allow. The only interaction could be, as you know, via text or something like that, or using a
Yeah.
chat box. So I don't know,
Mhm.
Dilly. What do you think about we try? Maybe you and I should try a video one time and see what happens. I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas? Raise their hand. Dilly, do you have an opinion? And then we'll go to Nasser. Dilly, you have any thoughts about this?
I'd love to hear what other people's opinions are. I mean, I wish like Twitter or X, I wish the spaces worked a little bit better. But I love the like with social audio and people being able to interact. I think that's where the difference is. But I'd love to hear what other people's opinions.
Dilly, have you ever gone on, and Nasser, I want you to weigh in, but Dilly, have you gone on any of these Twitter live things where you can see the person? Like, I haven't tried those things. Are those things
Yeah,
any
but
good?
those like you just have like a text prompt, like you can't really interact, I believe, like unless you're using like StreamYard or a different program. Like
Well,
so
can I,
yeah, go
Please,
ahead,
want me to
yeah,
talk
Nasser,
over
come
you,
in.
yeah,
Dilly?
weigh in, yep.
So some of the people that have professional producers are actually doing 2 or 3 channels simultaneously. So this interactive channel, because they do like the interactive, the other channel that's just straight video. So they run 2 of them simultaneously. So you can see the pictures, you can see the rest of the stuff, but you can interact on this space.
Oh,
And that
so
means
you're saying they have like a space call, but then they're also doing video?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,
And then
right, go ahead, Nasser, keep going, yep.
so they also do that through other channels like YouTube and some of the other ones. There's a doctor out there that's fairly prominent in sitting down and talking about things, whose name escapes me at the moment, who does multiple channels simultaneously. Um, so if you're watching the video side of it, you're frustrated, and it really frustrates me because you don't have any input. I can't talk, I can't interact, and the interaction here trumps anything anywhere. Glitchy, query, blah blah, knocked out, listen to whatever. The ability for an audience to sit down and interact with the host and actually bring up points and do things allows for something like today where you can't get your primary person in, you bring in a bunch of secondary person, you bring up some subjects. Sometimes they'll fly like
Wait,
crazy and be the best things.
Gnostic, are you calling yourself secondary? You calling drunk secondary? I'm sorry, I resemble that remark.
Secondary for the day.
For the
Uh,
day,
yeah,
for the day. But
yeah,
Nasser,
because you
Nasser, Dilly, let me understand something because I like what Nastic is saying. So Gnostic or Dilly, whoever can answer this. So let's just say, for the sake of the argument, so like, okay, leave out the multiple channels for a second. If I do a Twitter live, so like you can see me, can everyone still interact or not? How does that work? I haven't tried
no, you
this.
can't on the interactive one. You can't.
No. Okay.
Yeah, so you
Pardon me,
can
on the video
run
one. You can't.
yeah, you can run the video. I think what he's saying is they run the video, but they also have like a space call going where they're piping into the video segment the space call. So like people can either join by listening or interacting in the space call, or they can watch it. But I
Right.
Well,
agree when you're
you do both. You sit down,
yeah,
you got
yeah.
one on one machine, computer, phone, iPad, whatever. You've got the video going, and on the other one, you've got the interactive channel going. So you get the best of both worlds. You can sit down and pop back and forth, and there's no problem with it. Um, just goes glitchy, blah, got glitchy. The feedback, the interactive stuff on YouTube or on no, there is no interactive on YouTube with it, but the other video channels. Um, they've got running. So this one doctor, whatever his name is, that chats all the time. You know his name, Dilly, um, Doctor whatever.
Not
I
Dr.
did
Hey, Dilly, it's not Dr. Pastry, is it?
No,
no,
no, no,
I hope not.
no. But
Um
it, it
I
he,
don't know who you're talking about, but if you think of it, will you send it to me? Because
I'll send
I
it to you.
want to
Yeah.
watch what he does so I can like figure it out.
Yeah, I'll go look it up. I've just still got gym brain, so I'm only half here.
No worries.
Um, but so he's running multiple simultaneously. So he's running, I think, Rumble, YouTube, um, the audio, and then whatever, and some of the other ones run dual as well. So if you know they're running dual, it gets like, why are you in two spaces? And then suddenly it dawns on you, I know why you're in two spaces, so I'm going to go into and you finally figure it out and start using two systems. You can actually see the charts, the videos, all the rest of the stuff, and then interact and go back and forth. So what people are using is this one. The space is the audio for sitting down and doing it. They turn off the audio on the video one, and they just sit down and watch it on the video and interact fine. I mean, it's kind of like, what's the problem? I don't see a problem. One way on your computer or on iPad or something, you've got your video one running and signed into one account for X, and on the other one you've got the other one signed in as, so you become host and co-host simultaneously on two different
Wow.
ones, or host and host.
Wow.
And it doesn't exhaust your system. It does, because you're running two different computers on two different things, like a computer and an iPhone or something. I like the iPhone for X better than the rest of it. So you just, I mean, it gives you exactly what you're looking for. You have the visual as well as the rest of it. You just tell people on your second system, just bring up X on another account and just watch it here, and you get to watch it, and like, it's exactly what you want. And that's the compromise people have come to.
I got it.
So, but then
Yeah,
then you can sit down and actually run on the other channels as well. Then you need a little bit more. You need somebody like Dilly, who's got a producer mind behind her, that sits down and says, "Well, here's how you connect them all," and blah 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 blah, and then off you go.
right.
And if one dies, it dies. I mean, that's just life. But you've still got multiple channels you're talking through, and hopefully X, as squishy as it is and does all the rest of the stuff, like you said, this gives you the interactive. And George, by the way, you were frickin' missed, you jerk. Like, I don't think you understand. Much as you grumble and mumble and say blah blah and this is terrible and all the rest of this stuff, four-letter word, four-letter word, four-letter word. You so and so were missed.
All right.
Welcome
Well,
back. Thank you.
thank you. I
So
try to refrain from the 4 letter words. I mean, I can be out of.
I understand. I'm
I
editing completely, but
yeah.
don't go away again.
No,
You
no,
can
no,
talk
no.
to me
I
again if you
understand.
want if you
I'm
want.
opinionated. I'm just trying to figure out how we can make this work better. So, someone who hasn't spoken up is David, and I suspect David has an opinion about this. David, you have any thoughts about the way to deliver this stuff and the platform with technology? Because this is constantly evolving, and it's just I don't know. I really value the interaction. I think that's I made this. I had this discussion the other day with somebody. We're talking about Major League Baseball. We're talking about videos. We're talking about podcasts. And everyone's saying, well, everyone's saying you connect 20 times better video instead of audio, and I think the various platforms are saying that video is gaining market share and this, that, and everything else. I said, I know, but and this person wasn't a Gnostic. I'll direct this at you because I suspect you probably this is in your wheelhouse. I said, I get what you're saying. The fact that everyone's going that direction doesn't mean it's right. I said, let me give you an analogy to Major League Baseball. you know, Most teams they're going for, yeah, no, second, you can respond to this. Most teams, they want the fancy stadiums with the skyboxes and the scoreboards and all the what and blah 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 blah, the fan experience. Okay. But let me tell you about a couple of ballparks, the two oldest stadiums in Major League Baseball, Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. And they do it the old way. And they're very successful at what they're doing. So just because video is gaining market share to audio doesn't mean there's only one way to do this. And I really value the interactive capability of Twitter, but it is true that people connect better via video. So there's no right or wrong way. So Gnostic, I mean, this whole idea of audio versus video connection. I mean, do you have an opinion about this?
Okay, let me get into you. You like the baseball stuff. I'll give you a hockey example. So in Toronto, they've got the big stadium, blah blah, for hockey, all the rest of the stuff. The seats are done, the seats are all full, everything else, everything's going really fine. And then the exchange, the Securities Commission equivalent in Canada, decides that buying hockey seats and giving them to people is a benefit for brokers. Basically, you're bribing brokers, you're bribing your people, you're doing. They interpreted it as a bribe and said you can only spend X amount for seats. All of a sudden, seats that had never been available for 20 years suddenly came up.
Really?
And oh yeah, and are the people, generally, are people ticked? So the arena's ticked, hockey players are ticked, the public companies are ticked, the people who took advantage of the public companies whether it was a bribe or not. Who gave a shit? It's just you get to go see a hockey game when it's hot. And Canada's is really hard at sitting down and keeping these hockey teams and sports teams going, like the Toronto whatever it is, the baseball team and the hockey team and all the rest of the stuff. That stuff costs millions. And so what did the commission do? It went and wiped out one of the primary income things. So any public company, any brokerage firm, anybody that sits down and doesn't has those seats or boxes now has to calculate who came to it and give them a benefit, taxable benefit across this for whatever. So now you get one of these tickets and it's like, oh shit, forget it. I'm not going. Like, yeah, I don't want anything. I'm George Noble. That's my name. Okay. So I'll take the tickets under George Noble's name, send it to New York, send the receipt to New York. Cause I'll even wear a badge says
Oh
George
God.
Noble to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, just because I'm not going to pay the frickin' tax and declare it on it's insanity. So it works really well under certain circumstances. The video stuff works really well under certain circumstances, and everybody say, hey, it's really cute. But the main thing is in all of those, they don't have to put up with me because I can't interact with them. You, George, know if I think I should give you shit, I'll frickin' will give you shit,
Right.
and you'll give it right
No, we
back.
welcome it. We welcome it.
And I've heard people sit down and say, I don't think George likes you, and it's like, no, he likes me. What he just told you to shut up. Yeah, and he's right to go away.
Gnostic, I don't think you and I have ever had we sometimes disagreed on it. I don't think I've never had an ounce of animus in my body towards you, and I think I could say the same thing for you.
I
I
know,
know.
and I read that too. But you certainly go, okay, enough of that. Go
Yeah,
on to the
no,
next
moving
one.
to the next.
Please
No,
shut
because
me
we
up.
keep it moving along. I mean, we don't like
Oh,
filibuster.
I
I know.
know.
I know.
That's what's needed in this kind of space. And the number of people who aren't willing to use the mute button and shut people like me up. And I'm not saying please use the mute
No.
button, but I'm just saying the number of people who, and Dilly sees this in some of the spaces she's in. It's like, for God's sakes, just hit the mute button, you jerks. Like, bring the space under control, for God's sakes. And the people that sit and complain about you sit down and go, well, the guy just overwhelms and does blah, 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 and everything, blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, just because he doesn't want to listen to your shit while you're sitting down and rambling like crazy is not my problem. Shut the fuck up. So it's like, believe me, when I say you were missed, most of the people down here that are clapping and doing all the rest of this shit, like Cantor, I think, is just falling off his seat laughing right now.
Right.
So, I mean, the interaction in here gives you a live version of sitting down and doing it. So combining the two, the video and this space, I think gives you the ideal of both. Now, I've told Elon for Christ's sakes, put this capability into the video section of this, and it would be great.
Yeah,
Haven't done
I
it,
agree
hasn't
with that.
occurred, hasn't blah 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 blah, all the rest of the stuff. So the compromise is and I don't really think it's that kludgy. You get to see the video on one side, you get to sit down and talk and have the talk controls on the other side, and I don't see that that's really an issue. The only thing that's an issue in that is I can't see the little like Drunken Miller's face, which I think is absolutely hilarious, and know that there's David down there doing his shit. And okay, we're going to bring him up. Then we're going to make sure we hit the mute button in time because he's going to go on with this
All
whole
right.
theory about
All
stuff
right. So
forever.
this,
By the way, David, I'm just giving you a hard
Gnostic,
time.
Gnostic. I got to ask you something because you guys are both in Canada. So we know drunk. It's a pretty good looking picture of drunk. That looks real to me. So what I want to know, Gnostic, this is for you first. Is David's picture the real David, or is that some fake picture, Gnostic? What do you think?
Well, I've seen a couple pictures of him, so I suspect this is kind of a realish picture. But no, I've never met him. I don't know. I can't vouch for the picture at all.
Yeah, but David's in Montreal, and you're what, in Toronto? Is that right, Gnostic?
I'm in Vancouver.
Vancouver. All right, David, you've been quiet. Your turn.
Yeah, no, I'll be completely frank. This was an AI generated picture based off of a real picture. Just to give hats off to Fi that's down there because he's the one that generated it, and I've just used it consistently. But yeah, I'm going to revert it back to a real picture, George.
So as long as we don't all become Cheech, whatever, then we're okay. So all right, so David, do you go to hockey games in Montreal?
Not at all. I'm not a big hockey fan,
Are
George.
you a sports fan?
I like
Wait,
golf.
you can
I
be
like golf.
Canadian and not be a hockey fan?
Correct, Dilly. You're
I'm
talking to one right now.
shocked.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Dilly, I'm afraid you got a few people in here who really are just passive attendees at the
Really? I
final
thought
games.
it was like a part of I don't know, your daily routine as Canadians, but
So not
Oh, you mean
Gnostic. I totally forgot. Where do the Maple Leafs play in Toronto?
Toronto.
No, but where? Do you know the arena? I'm sorry.
No, I think that there's two of them. There's a big stadium and then the other one.
There
So,
wasn't
but
there like back in
don't-
the day. I'm dating myself. Wasn't there Maple Leaf Gardens or something? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think they tore it down. put
Okay,
up
and
a-
then
put up
and
a new
then
one.
there used to be the Montreal Forum way back in the day. I remember going to that. And
George, you're aging yourself. The roofs were falling in on those places.
now, where do they play in Vancouver?
GM Place. They built this, so they've got the big BC Place stadium, and then they've got a smaller one that they actually built for hockey and the sports arenas and concerts.
So Gnostic and for David. So like, help us a little bit here with sports. So like, I know you got hockey. You got a couple of the Toronto whatchamacallit, it's the oh god, I'm losing my mind.
George, to answer your question, the
Yep.
blankety blank 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 tax rates are so frickin' high across corporations and everything else and all the rest of it that the ability to earn the money necessary to sit down and actually continue to own a franchise under the attendance records for the teams and actually under the ability to sit down and bid for players on a reasonable basis, we're flagging along at the bottom end of the player selection as well as the bottom end of the selections for teams to sit down and do stuff, and it's getting worse and worse.
Gnostic, after hockey, do Canadians care about anything else in terms of sports?
I know Gnostic is going to like curling.
Oh yeah, curling is great. Yep, throw them rocks around and
Curling.
hey, them hot babes bending over is just a little, when they're shoveling the broom down the way and those asses are wiggling. I mean, it's all I can do not to throw a rock at those feet and just knock them over and beg for forgiveness on my knees later on. Just it's great way to make passes at women.
So David or Gnostic, so you talk about the salary thing. It's interesting. So is that one of the reasons why? Talk to me about the Toronto Blue Jays. So do Canadians care about the Toronto Blue Jays? I know they've done very well in the past with attendance, but this economic angle, Gnostic, you were talking about, does that impact like their ability to pay up for talent?
Yeah, my understanding is yes, very much so.
Okay. And then the pro basketball team, the same thing. I mean, they won the championship a few years ago.
We have pro basketball in Canada.
Well, there's a team in Toronto. I forget what they. There you go.
The
There
Toronto
used to be a
Raptors.
team in Vancouver.
Okay, the Toronto Raptors. Okay, yeah.
And Gnostic, when the Vancouver basketball team, they're now the Memphis Grizzlies, if I got this right. Like, were people
That's
shedding
the
it? Was anyone shedding it tear? I mean, did the Vancouver support the basketball team when they were there? Why did they move? Why did they move?
Well, basketball is not like we play basketball, high school, university, college teams, blah blah blah. But again, the sponsorship for that stuff doesn't build the background to be able to build up the stuff. So if I sponsor a university team, what do I get for a write-off? Nothing. If I sponsor
Really,
this team, what do I get for it? Nothing. If I
really.
donate to this one, so give me a tax write-off benefit for whatever. And the tax rate here, by the time you're finished, okay, my marginal tax rate in this country is 54%. Now that's not including excess taxes such as gasoline tax, GST, PST. By the time I'm all finished, it's about 72%.
What?
Yes. So where the hell am I out of that 28% that's left? Where the hell am I going to have the excess cash to sit down and throw at things?
That
All right,
sounds
so
like money laundering.
hold on, AJ, hold off, AJ, hold off. And Christopher, hold off. We'll get to you in a second too. But Nasik, I want to go with this thread a little bit more. So, okay, so when the U.S. starts this insanity, with all the tariffs on Canada, blah blah blah, and Canada's become the 51st state, blah blah blah. But then, there are no smart Canadians in these spaces and elsewhere. Read on Twitter, how screwed up Canada is with the taxes, like you're saying, and you look at economic growth in Canada compared to the U.S. the last 17 years, blah 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 blah. Nastic, just you and me. No one else is listening. Like, are there quietly?
Texas or Florida very soon.
So, like, let me ask you a question. Seriously, like, I assume.
Seriously.
Yeah, no. I know. But hold on, look to the question. On the assumption that Gnostic's not your real name, are there like, are there like between friends? Are there like some Canadians who are like, yeah, you know what? Becoming the 51st state of the U.S. wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Oh Lord, Alberta's probably going to sit down and do it because their independence movement, they had won a long time ago. So picture this, okay? A state, let's say, what state do you live in now, George? New York?
New York, yep.
Okay, so picture this. New York is the center of finance, center of this rest of the stuff, center of everything else. All the money's coming in. You got a whole bunch of billionaires there, millionaires there, everything else. Forget about people moving out to Florida right now. So you're earning a whole bunch of money, everything else. And the US government comes in and says, you know what? That's just not fair to Minnesota. So what we're going to do is we're going to tax you to the rate of, let's call it $18 billion a year. And we're going to give that to Minnesota, Illinois to pay for the crappy shit that Chicago did and Illinois did, make up the deficit in Minnesota. Oh, Wisconsin has a problem too. So we're going to give it to Wisconsin. So all of these states, we're going to tax you on this one and give it over these call them have not states because, well, they're farming states. They don't make enough money. Their manufacturing does this. Manufacturing fell on its head in Detroit. So we got like Chicago just, somehow Illinois just screwed up really badly, and now they're negative on their cash flow, blah, 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 tax rates. They're hitting the Laffer curve for their taxes. So we're going to tax you guys and sit down and do. How do you feel about that?
Not good.
Okay. That's Alberta. $18 billion a year taxed away from the biggest resource province in Canada and given to, well, let's see, we want to keep Quebec in, so we'll give, I forget what portion of that goes to Quebec. So we'll give it to Quebec just to sort of protect the language issues and let them pay extra for babies, which I think is a good idea. Just Quebec's the only one that has the money to do that. So you get extra every time you have a baby in Quebec. Well, gee whiz, this not a bad idea actually, but somewhat like other countries are now doing. I think there's one country in Europe that's now paying $2,000 plus per baby for a woman to have. It's like, gee, you have 3 kids, that's $6,000 a month. You can almost retire on that in some places. So they're now starting that. Well, that's been going on in Quebec for quite some time because, well, gee, the Quebec population is declining. We got to support it. We got to support French language. Boo hoo, boo hoo. I get phone calls from Quebec saying you have to put your stuff out in French. Fine, pay me. No, this is your obligation as a Canadian. Why? It's going to cost me a couple $100,000 a year to translate this stuff into French. What do I get for it? Being a proud Canadian for sitting down and doing that. So you're going to charge me, incidentally, $250,000 a year just to be a proud Canadian. Screw you. Pay me money. No, fine. Stop
Nothing.
delivering to anybody in French.
You can use AI now. By the way, for French translation, it's
yeah,
pretty optimal.
I understand, but this goes back a long way on sitting down and saying translate the stuff. So it's like, what the hell? Why do you want to be subsidized to this degree, Quebec? Oh, and then you realize Ontario gets a whole bunch too. Now, Ontario had their auto pack, it had this, it had this, it had this, but Ottawa actually is a have-not province because they take stuff out of that transfer payment as well. So I think they take something like 5 or 6 billion, 7 billion. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
so
exact numbers are.
so now, so let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So, like, I see this. This is with you and David. So I know in the U.S. you see these graphs sometimes. It shows states, and it's like, this state gets 50 billion more than they pay out, and this state, pays out 50 billion more than they get. And blah 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 blah. So if we were to do one of these things for Canada, like, who is subsidizing all the provinces that are getting all the money?
Alberta.
Is that from the resources, basically, from the energy?
Yep, that's from
Yep.
oil. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And which
So
one?
now,
And which one of these provinces is most on the dole? Gets the most money?
Quebec.
Quebec.
Look, whoa. All right, Quebec needs its dues. We are French natural speakers, all right, and we
The accent is coming out there. Huh?
we originated Canada, all right.
We're originating with the accent. Come on, David, quit hiding your accent.
Not
Let the
stick,
full
not
accent
stick.
play.
Dilly, we got a fight breaking out. It's a Canadian paddler. Dilly, you got to weigh in, Dilly.
We got to
let
get
the
some maple
accent go
syrup
and mix
out
up
and then have them
your
fight in
pronouns a
that.
little bit there because I'm not quite sure I understand the full. Oh God, I'm switching to a Southern accent. I can't do the French one
sorry.
properly.
Dilly,
Anyway,
no, seriously, David, you got to get one of those Cheech helium voices to hide that French accent, David.
It's not that bad, George. I sound Americanized.
it's not that bad until he loses his temper or gets angry or something or starts laughing, and then the French accent he come out.
Oh God.
Anyway, yes, it's Quebec. So in all seriousness, what's happening is Alberta is basically saying, "Screw you, Canada." And now you want to up that or do it. Now you want to cut off our pipelines. You want to decrease our ability to drill for oil. You want to sit down and say, hey, we're the resource managers for the whole thing. So we want to manage this. So you rob us for multiple. So we're talking $18 billion a year for over almost 20 years now. So That's a huge freaking number coming out of one province in Canada. Now,
Wow.
if that was you in New York, what would you want to do if you had an opportunity to sit down and just secede from the U.S. and become, well, I'll just use this and think of all the stuff I didn't say. Uh, would you secede from the U.S. and actually come to Canada and say New York is now a state, a province in
No,
Canada?
I hear it's like the line, never ask a question you know the answer to. I get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
So Alberta, they're in the process now, literally, of having a vote. Actually, the premier of the province reduced the vote from 660,000 down to 117,000, and I think she got the quota filled in a couple of days because people are so pissed off. So basically, Alberta's Canada's equivalent of Texas. So take the Texas attitude, dump it in Alberta, and you get what they think of somebody taking their money.
So is there a reasonable chance this Alberta motion? I mean, not they'll be able to secede, but within Alberta, they'll vote yes for this thing.
Oh, they well, that's the debate in Canada right now. Will they do that? And if they do that, what's BC going to do? Because BC is now sitting as an isolated province in Canada, and we have to cross international borders in order to sit down and get over to the rest of Canada. So the likelihood is BC would end up kicking out its socialist government and end up following. So you'd now have Cascadia, all the way up to
Yeah.
Alaska.
So Nasik, from when? I mean, I think we're all learning a lot here. So from when, for us dumb Americans, from when did this thing really start? Did this movement start to take a light? Is this like in the last, decade,
Oh,
50 years, from whenever? Like, how long has this been going on?
well, Alberta's never been really happy with the entire process because it has oil. Mine the oil. Get the oil out. Blah blah blah. We're talking about, I think, the second or third largest deposit of oil in the world
Yeah.
is sitting up in the tar sands and getting it out. And so we have in Vancouver, we've got the Greenpeace movement who goes in and attacks it out front, and then all of the equality, blah blah, can't do all the rest of this stuff. People putting pressure on it for years. So the oil coming out of Alberta was actually, I think, at $18 less because of that, sold to the U.S. at $18 less than the WTI barrel of oil. And it's like Saudi heavy oil, Venezuelan heavy oil. It has to go down to Louisiana to sit down and be refined. So you literally have to pipe or train it right now because of the pipeline that was stopped by Biden. I go to cross a railway tracks, and I'm literally stopped there for about 30 minutes or longer with a train of oil tanker cars being hauled down to Louisiana, which is just hilarious. You sit down and count the cars, a couple of engines in between, couple more cars. Literally, the train tracks become a pipeline.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I mean, the hole from the pipeline not being done was literally filled by CN and Burlington, I think. I think it's Burlington carrying stuff down, and it's why CN went and bought a couple of railroads in the U.S. so they could just sit down and keep shipping the stuff down to Louisiana
This is crazy.
at
What
the
about
Cushing.
that? What about that big pipeline they built out towards BC?
Oh, you mean the one that was supposed to be, I think,
The
12
one,
billion and now cost them 30 billion to sit down and
yeah,
do?
yeah, whichever one they
Well, that's
tripled the price of.
Yep.
Yeah, they tripled the price on it, and then people started filling it up. So the difficulty is now there's a prohibition of oil tankers coming into Vancouver to sit down and do it. So you can't bring in the big tankers. You got to do little Panamax tankers to come into the harbor and roil around the harbor and fill up. So now, of course, the protests are out there. The kayakers are out there protesting and saying can't do that. But the reception terminal for that is right inside this people, the harbor in Vancouver, people mistake for a lake because there's literally no waves in it. Like the waves might be 2 inches high in the whole thing, so people mistake it for a lake. And this is where the tankers have to come in and sit down and go to the reserve thing in Burnaby to sit the termination of the pipeline in order to sit down and load up. So there's a pipeline there, and there's one in Richmond, which is south near the air, a little further south near the airport, and can take something that's a little
So,
bit
so,
bigger.
so, so, so Gnostic, I'm going to reveal more about my ignorance. Is this the same thing? I don't know if it's a few years from now, but they're talking about Canada becoming an even bigger export of LNG to like Asia. Is this the same thing? Is that something
Oh
different?
yes, that's also
Or
depends.
is
Oh
that
yeah.
something different? What is that, Gnostic?
So what happens is all gas and stuff. You've got LNG, you've got hydrogen, LNG, you've got natural gas, and you've got oil all together, fractured up in different zones. So northern BC, northeastern BC, and into Alberta, you've got major natural gas stuff. You've got oil. You've got a bunch of other stuff up there in sands or in liquid form. coming up. So what they did is they took a pipeline from there, finally put a pipeline across British Columbia over to Kitimat and Prince Rupert in order to sit down and load it. And then the Canadian government got smack dab in the middle of basically saying no, 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 stalling forever. But a company called LNG Canada, which is a conglomerate of other LNG companies, finally put in a huge plant in there. LNG 2 was approved, but now is being stalled because the issue about tankers being loaded is a question now. So they're like, okay, and also Qatar is shipping out LNG, US is shipping out LNG, other countries. There was a window to ship to the Far East that may in fact be closing now because LNG is so cheap. So the question is it really worthwhile? But they've got 1, 2, 3 48-inch natural gas pipelines coming from Alberta and northern BC to sit down and feed it. There's supposed to be LNG 1, LNG 2, and 2 floating ones off native reservations, and one more, I think, sitting in Prince George. So there's supposed to be 5 large LNG compressor plants going into northwestern BC to sit down and compress it and ship it out. So it'll become a major port, shipping out LNG. They literally just brought in a tanker you have to bring in natural gas to begin with anyway, and start it all up. So they're just in the process of starting that all up literally right now.
Wow. But I mean, ultimately, given, I mean, we all know there's so
Oh,
much
let
talk.
me finish one more thing.
Yeah, go on. Yep.
Germany came over to literally beg Trudeau to ship LNG to Germany so they wouldn't have the problem with the pipelines in Russia. And Trudeau's comment was, I don't see a business case for that. So no.
What?
Yes. Yep. That's what the asshole did. I don't see a business case for that. So we're not going to do the cross Canada pipeline. So no gas pipeline to ship across the country. And yeah, David's laughing. Montreal, then the premier of Montreal goes, we're not having a gas line through our country. It's like, what the hell? Like, so you've got the premier of a province saying no pipeline. You've got this idiot we elected, the clown face we elected now, which is a better speaking person, but worse than Trudeau by far, comes up and says pre-election, we're going to do an energy corridor, which everybody interprets to be oil. His minister now comes up and says, oh no, but that didn't include a pipeline. That's an energy corridor. What the hell are you going to put in an energy corridor if you're not going to put a pipeline? You're going to try and put electrical lines in a corridor? And like, what the hell? Like, all of the electricity goes from Quebec down to New York. New York actually lives on Quebec energy. That's one of the things that was threatened to be cut off in the tariffs is, well, we'll just turn it off and New York would go dark. Basically, the whole Northeast would go dark because they live on a huge hydro project coming out of Quebec to sit down and do it. So,
So, not let me ask you something. I don't want to get too much into politics, so I'm not going to ask you your views, nor am I going to.
oh, let me
No,
do
no,
my
not
views. I
no, no,
can't
no, no,
answer
no,
them.
no. No, hear me out. Hear me out. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but what I want to know is if you nationwide across Canada, make it easy for you to answer. Nationwide across Canada, like, what do people think of Trudeau?
Should I send you some of the memes?
Yes.
Basically,
Maybe, or you know what? You know what? I notice a pregnant pause there. Do you want to have David weigh in on this?
well, let's have me first and see if David can. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure David can add to what I'm going to say,
go
and
for it.
Fi, I'm pretty sure could add
Go for it.
some
Go
more to
for it.
that too. Um, so his own, just as a measure of how much he's despised, not just disliked, despised. His own Liberal Party is now considering changing its constitution, its bylaws. They did not have an ability to kick him out or question him as long as he was a sitting prime minister. Like, literally, the Liberal Party couldn't kick him out. Right now, they're sitting down and contemplating sitting down, changing the bylaws to allow them to dethrone a prime minister if he screws up that much again. That's his own party's doing that right now.
Really?
So if you think it's the rest of the people that dislike him, imagine, like, the representative I have in this area, does buildings, does all the rest of the stuff. Generally, he's a reasonable human being. Sits down and backs that jerk for the stuff he's saying. I ran into him and a minister walking down the sidewalk once, the minister of mines and resources, and you can imagine the like, if I can do this in this space, you should imagine what I'm going to do in front of somebody that actually makes the laws. And they were rescued by one of their team people who comes up. We've got a meeting down here in about 5 minutes, and I go, "You gonna pull this guy away while I'm just getting my speech done up for you? I'll come and attend your speech." The guy's like, "Well, no, you can't do that. No, like no." And this guy knew me. He's like, "No, you can't do that. Like, give me 5 more minutes." The guy said, "Can't do it. We got to go." So literally, while they're walking to their next political thing, I'm sitting there berating the guy, and he's coming up with arguments, and it's just one thing, shot it down, another 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 thing, shot it down. There's somebody else walking down the street, right, who knows me, who sees me and goes, "Why are you harassing this person? This is the Minister of Mines and Resources." Oh God, that lit a fire. Like literally, this guy had 5 people going at him as he's walking down to his next event. Just total coincidental.
Wow.
These people were literally walking the street. They would be harassed by people in different areas. Now, the difficulty is that these people stay in power by what we call the blue-haired, pink-haired little old ladies and soccer moms in area code 905, 514, and 416. And that's what keeps them in power. But
whoa, what about the 514 here, Gnostic? Come on. 514 is
514. Sorry. Yep, 514 did
Yeah,
it. That's all government employees.
I know.
Don't you suppose
Yeah,
they could be committing
sorry.
election fraud the same way?
Guys, hold on. Time out. I am sounding the 5-minute warning. I mean, Dilly, no. I tell you what, because I gotta eat, and I don't want my
Okay.
I don't want my one to dump me.
Here's a summary, George.
Yep.
Your question was basing around, would the provinces actually succeed, and how did people feel about it? Alberta, they almost celebrated and broke champagne bottles. BC, people like me are sitting down going, well, I got a choice: Florida, Texas,
Got it.
or a new state. Well, I kind of like it here. I don't like it if we could become a state, because we import some of the problems you have now because the border disappears, and I don't like that. But it's like, okay, yeah, at that at 72% tax rate, what am I doing here?
Exactly. All right. So listen, Gnostic, hold that thought for 1 second. So we got to manage the clock here. We got like no timeouts left. It's a football game. So I'm going to allow Christopher 60 seconds because I want David to have the last word on Canada. And the other thing I'm going to say is we are going to do a Canada panel. All right. And I'm going to have Gnostic and David co-host, and also we need some diversity here because we got a Vancouver guy and we got a Montreal guy. So I don't know if we need like a Nova Scotia guy or something, but you guys got to bring in somebody else. We need diversity on this panel, but I never thought Canadians could be so interesting. And I say this to my friends David and Gnostic. This
Maybe
is
we
like,
could call it.
as Dilly was saying, this is fascinating. All right. So Christopher, keep it really brief because we're running up against a time constraint here. You got something to say, Christopher?
Shorter than that, man. This is super short. These are embarrassing Canadians, by the way. I'm gonna like throw a little shade on them. The national sport of Canada is lacrosse.
I was
The
going to say
summer
lacrosse,
sport.
Christopher. I was
The
going to say lacrosse.
national
Yeah.
winter sport of Canada is hockey. So the fact that you guys brought up hurling or curling or whatever fucking ridiculous sports, I am insulted. Lacrosse is my absolute passion and favorite sport. I'm a Chicago guy. I'm not Canadian. But shame on all of you.
All right,
You guys need
Christopher,
to get, you need a little education.
Christopher, when we do the Canada panel, you're coming back, and I'm going to give David the last word. David, you have the last word.
All right, so I'm gonna make it succinct, George. I'm not gonna pull up a George Noble and do a lot of time because I think we.
Oh, good call, David. Good one.
There you go. Sign him up.
No, so I have to give a quick anecdote. George, you absolutely need to keep this medium, this method of spaces. I think if you go live and you do what Gnostic was saying, that would be fantastic. We would lose a good, valuable method of communication and interaction. I still remember, George, the first space that I've ever entered was actually a George Noble space. And then here I am talking about passive flows, going into macro.
David, no, hold on a sec. I got to butt in here. David, you were so freaking shy and speech impediment issues and just getting up here. You basically faced your own fears and taught. You have advanced so freaking far. Congratulations.
I second the motion. And David, I'm going to impose on you now as a friend. Just slow it down. The problem is you are so smart. You always know as a busy mind. You always know as a busy mind. Okay, slow. You know what? I want you to slow it down to a speed where you're getting bored listening to yourself. So say it slow, David. I love you. Go on.
See, I just feel like when I'm slow, unfortunately, like I feel like I'm slow. So like
David,
mentally
stop
slow.
right here.
No,
Stop, stop, stop,
no,
stop,
no.
stop,
Dude, he
stop.
can't even
David,
listen to him. He's trying to
David.
slow it down and
No,
it's not
David.
working.
I'm gonna mute you, Dilly. David, that was
You
perfect.
can't mute me.
That was. I'll throw you out,
Yeah,
Dilly.
what you did,
Yeah, you
just
can
did,
throw me
David,
out,
was
George.
perfect.
David,
You even lower the tone
David,
as you talk fast. You raise it
David,
as you calm down.
you were perfect. It sounds normal to us. Okay, so go ahead, speak, David.
So yeah, final point. I still remember that space. Great learning lesson. If we lose that interaction, then we're going to lose something very valuable here, George.
Oh, my
Absolutely.
adoring fans. All right. So David, we need the last word from someone from Quebec. Do you like? Are you triggered by Gnostic, or like he's largely telling the truth, or like what's the deal here with Gnostic?
He's largely telling the truth. I think, like, when we take Trudeau into account here, the guy was one of the main causations to why we have economic weakness. Like, for the last 8 years, we could have actually been something quite formidable and kept our actual, like, economy in a very strong path and competitive. But now we've lost all remnants of competitiveness on a global scale. Unfortunate, but that was very much Trudeau. Yeah, I'm going to end it there.
Wow. All right. So, Dilly, did you ever think things Canadian could be so fascinating? No, seriously, guys. I'm not.
I will say, George, one of my favorite things about Twitter is like interacting with the Canadians specifically. So there's a lot of Canadians on this app, and their politics are super interesting to me. I don't know, and I don't know. I'm from Michigan, so I'm kind of like we're like the Canadians of the United States.
Oh God. So, Dilly, we're gonna have to do a space. I know with you and these guys, we can talk about poutine, or whatever you call that horrible
Yeah,
thing. Oh
poutine.
God.
Whoa, it's not
Oh
horrible,
Lord,
George.
what
It
is
is
that
not
sweet
horrible.
stuff? You're pouring gravy on French fries,
Oh no,
Oh,
and
it's
with
then you put some
delicious.
curd
cheesy
cheese.
thing on
No,
top of it.
it is pure heaven. No,
Delicious.
no, it is
Yeah.
delicious. George, do you like gravy? I'm just gonna ask
Yeah,
you very
I like
specific.
gravy. Yep.
Okay, do you like fries?
Yes. Not good for my waist, but yes.
Do you like cheese?
Oh yeah.
Okay, then now combined all three of them together, and what do you get? Heaven, absolute heaven.
So, David, if you like that, I gotta have you come down to the Jersey Shore, and you can have some fried dough. What do you think of that?
Oh God, both of
I've
you are
never
gonna have to
tried
buy
that.
bigger pants. Jesus.
All right, guys. Seriously, I'm dead serious.
Hold on,
I want to do a
before you run,
Gnostic.
Dilly, I sent you it's Dr. Drew was the guy I was talking about. I
Oh
sent you a
yeah.
link.
All
Okay.
right.
George, I sent you Dr.
All
Drew's
right. No,
stuff
I
as well.
appreciate it. No, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. For us ignorant Americans, and seriously, I know I fool around a lot. This has really been interesting. I want to do a Canada thing, and between David and you, Gnostic, you guys should figure out who else should come on. Even if they're not all co-hosts, we could get like a bunch of Canadians, but no crazies. All right, I'd love to hear more about this because this is, and also this whole a lot of parts of Canada we don't know anything about. So I think this would be really interesting. So Gnostic and David, I'll DM you guys, but we really got to do this. This has been awesome. All right, so and by the way, Gnostic, I got you.
We've been going 2
Yeah, 2
hours.
hours. This is enough. Dilly keeps saying keep it to an hour or 2 hours. Dilly, I couldn't. These Canadians made me do it. All right. This has been awesome, guys. See you again. Our next space, I think we're set for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. We might do one.
Yeah, I shared
Yeah.
I retweeted all of the reminders.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're
We
on
may
Mondays.
do Tuesday if I can get Adam Parker to come back. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. Good night, everyone. This has been
All right.
great. Take care. Bye, bye,
Bye.
bye, bye, bye.